Hey guys, Mr. Voiles here with another quick tutorial. Today we're talking about brushes. Oh yeah, this is going to be fun. So just real quick, we're going to show you a couple of things. First is I want to show you, it's not really so much a brush, but we're talking about getting rid of watermarks with the clone tool. And so here I've brought in a new background just to illustrate the point. Some of those backgrounds I gave you have, if we zoom in here, grab my plus magnifying, you can see they have these little watermarks. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to get rid of those, at least the best way I know how to get rid of them. So first, of course, we have to rasterize our layer, and we're going to go over here to our toolbar, our menu, and there's probably a tool in here that you've seen before, but we've never used it before. It's called the Healing Brush Tool, and look at what it's doing to that apple. Did you see the little preview? So you can basically, it's like a brush that kind of can heal, I guess you could say. It moves pixels around to take away things that you don't want. You may want to just try spot healing at the beginning. That's the first one there at the top. And we can do our bracket keys to make the brush bigger or smaller. And basically, you just kind of cover over those areas that you want to heal. And what it does is it samples pixels from all the way around on the other parts of the image and kind of replaces them and blends them together automatically. Same thing right here. All right, so here's a watermark here that I want to get rid of. And most of the time you see it does a pretty good job. Sometimes you might have to go back over, just depending. You can also try the healing brush tool. That was the spot healing that we just did. The healing brush tool is very similar, but what it does is it allows you to choose which part of the image that you are going to sample pixels from. So when I try to click, it's going to say option click to define a source point to be used to repair the image. So basically what it's telling me is I have to choose which part of the image I want to sample pixels from. So I can click OK, and what it will allow me to do is you're going to hold down option on your keyboard, and when you do that, you see how it turns into a target. So I can basically hold down option and click an area that I want to sample pixels from. You can see that it's basically moving from that area that I sampled, wherever it was here. And so now when I click, you can see that it's actually showing me right in the area where I healed from. Okay, so that's a pretty cool way to do that. Try both of those if you can, spot healing and healing brush tool. If you don't want to have to worry about sampling, just try spot healing and let Photoshop do the hard work for you. Okay, so I'm going to delete this layer. I'm going to go back to my Instagram story that I had created for Hanukkah. And let's see, I'm going to make a new layer, and what I want to show you guys now is basically how to work with brushes. So I think I can turn on some of this stuff here, and I'm not going to turn on everything because I don't want it to be too distracting. I want to be able to see what I'm doing. So actually we might turn off the background here. And so as you guys know, there's this tool called the brush tool, okay? And the brush tool is pretty neat because it'll, it allows you to like draw and stuff like that, but there's probably some stuff you didn't know about it. So what I can do is actually go up to here, and I can choose a brush. What you probably didn't know is if we basically expand this box, you'll see that there's different brushes that you can choose from. And you can also come up here to the top and change your size and your hardness. Okay, so the size is pretty easy to grasp. It's the same thing as using the bracket keys on your keypad. I can change the size. If I click out of here, I can change the size of my brush, bigger or smaller. So that's exactly the same thing that this slider does, is it changes the size. Just be really careful, because if you go too far, that brush is going to be so huge that it's literally going to be bigger than your canvas. So look at how big that brush is right there. So I don't want a brush that's like, 1040 pixels or something. I want to keep that as probably the biggest I'm going to go is, you know, around 500 or so. Now the hardness is basically the difference between, like, you see these two brushes right here. There's a hard round, which gives you a hard edge, and then there's a soft round, which gives you a soft edge. So this would be more like for airbrushing, that sort of thing. So if you bring the hardness, honestly, I don't know why it's called hardness. I think that's a bad name for this slider. I would call this slider the feather. Okay, so basically you're able to choose the how feathered or how hard you want the edge of your brush to be. So you can choose that right there at the top, or you can scroll through and look through some of these and pick the ones that you like. And we're talking about elements, so what we're really wanting to do is use a brush to accent our elements, okay? Now these general brushes, I don't normally use those for accents, but if you go and look through some of these folders, there's some other brushes that you can look through. There's like charcoal and, you know, different things like that. You know, you've got like a pencil brush, but I kind of like these down over here. There's the special effects brushes. You've got like spatter brushes and like clouds and different things. And check that out. Look at what that'll do. So that's pretty cool. You know, some of the guys you might want to use a spatter brush just for, you know, accent or bring some depth or dimension. And that's really cool if you want to try to do like some texture with different colors. And what you can do is basically change the size of that brush back and forth to give it some basically different texture to it. And you can even change the color. So like say if I go from this dark green to this light green, I can add some, you know, I can add some spatters of color in there and really kind of make, you know, different textures with that. All right. Another thing you can do is if we go up here to, if you notice over here on the side, there's this part of the menu that's kind of blank, and that's normally where we'll find our history panel right there. But if we go up to view, if we go up to window, go to window, and you can see there's like this long list of things that are checked or unchecked. Well, basically, if you check on and off those things, it will basically give you those panels that you can work with. So what I want to do is go ahead and check on brush settings, and if I check that on, you see it gives me this whole new panel over here underneath the history panel, and I can go around and look inside of there. There's brush and brush settings. They're kind of together, but I like to go to brush settings, and you can see there's this list of more check boxes. And usually shape dynamics, scattering, and maybe color are the only ones that I'll ever mess with, but you can kind of mess around in there. Just keep in mind that if you do something weird, you have to Command Z to undo that. But if we look around on brush dynamics, and here's the other kind of tricky part, guys, is you can uncheck and check things in the list, but you won't actually be able to see the options unless you click on the actual word. So you can check it and check it off, but to see the sliders for that, you have to click on the word. So for instance, if I want to see shape dynamics, I don't want to just check it on, but I want to click the word, and you'll see these sliders will change. See how that works? So you actually have to click the option, and you can see these different sliders. So on the shape dynamics, what this will help me to do is basically change the shape of the brush. So I can change the size, I can change kind of the diameter, if you think about it that way, and just different things. The roundness, we can go over here to scattering, and scattering will kind of, you know, bring the shape together or scatter it apart. So play around with those if you're not afraid. Guys, the brush stuff isn't for everybody because, you know, you may not want your Instagram story to have a brush effect. You may want to go and just download some simple brushes that I've given you in the resource folder, or you may not even want brushes at all. You may want to just do something completely different. These are just options for you to play with, but I did want everyone to know about how to do the healing brush for sure. And so once you've got that on a separate layer, you know, you could bring it down into the background and just play around. You know, I think that looks kind of cool. Let's see, what does that look like if I turn on my background? It doesn't look too bad. I might could actually bring the opacity down. It's just something cool to play with. And then I've also got my holiday lights in the background too. So guys, that's it for today. Play around with those brushes. Don't be afraid. If you don't like it, you don't have to use it. Your assignment for today, though, is to show me that you are using your folders inside of Photoshop. That's it for today, guys. Have fun. God bless.